A special episode of the Late Night Vision Show. We've got an episode 319, y'all. It is Thursday morning. Y'all are getting it. It is the Thursday before Father's Day, and we've never done a show like this before. We are doing a Father's Day special. We're going to be talking about a lot of things, telling some funny stories. We're going to see the lighthearted side of the show, maybe a little bit of the serious side of what we do, but we want to honor all the people out there, all the dads, for what you do. Now, if you're a fan of the show, if you watch this show and you come back regularly, it's probably because you had somebody in your life that did the right thing and exposed you to the outdoors. And we want to honor that person. We want to honor you as you try to bestow that maybe on one of your kids or nephews or what have you. But we all had either a dad or a granddad, maybe even a great granddad or an uncle that threw us out in the woods, strapped a rifle to our back and said, "Get after it, boy." And for those people, happy Father's Day. We want to honor you today. To help me with this very special show, Mr. Jason Robertson, owner of Outdoor Legacy. Jason, did anybody ever strap a rifle on your back and just tell you get after it?
I think it was a BB gun or a 22, but yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
That's many a days out there chasing birds and squirrels trying to get one. I'm not gonna lie. I probably those little round tubes that the Daisy BBs came in. I don't know how many of those that I went through, but my kill to BB ratio was probably in the thousands.
I think we're all pretty much bird terrorists of our areas, and we would run just loose through the woods. And I don't know if y'all ever had, which sounds really stupid, but BB gun wars and stuff out in the woods.
I did not. I would not do that. I was smarter than that, even as a child.
We were dumb, man. There was half of us kids. There'd be about 10 of them. 10 of us, and half of us we'd split up in teams, and it was basically just hide in the woods and shoot each other with BB guns. It was really dumb, and I don't know. It was.
I knew it was dumb then.
Yeah.
I had a buddy that got his front tooth shot out, but that was
We have had some BBs lodged under a layer or two of skin, but we are here to talk about. We're going to tell some funny stories. We're going to kick off, and I'm going to talk a little bit about my dad and the outdoors and being with my uncles, because we all have crazy uncles that have done some things that our parents probably wouldn't approve of with us. But we're also going to talk about Outdoor Legacy, how Outdoor Legacy got started, because Outdoor Legacy is what it is today because of a very good father. And we want to highlight him and talk about him and how it kind of just ties into our industry as a whole and our business, Outdoor Legacy, and the small businesses throughout our industry and throughout the United States. And those are usually have some strong people behind them, whether they're dads or moms or whatever. But anyway, before we get into some of the good stuff, if you are looking for a night vision or thermal optic, you found the right place with Outdoor Legacy. You can call us 877-350-1818. You can find all of our optics, outdoorlegacygear.com. We'd be glad to help you and glad to help you with choosing either your first optic or maybe your 9th or 10th optic. We get all the calls. It doesn't matter. But we thank you for your business, and we look forward to helping you here and throughout the hunting season coming up. So let's start off, before we get into the history, Jason, of Outdoor Legacy and how all that got started. I want to talk a little bit. We'll talk a little bit about our early experiences hunting and stuff. And I want to tell a funny story before we get kicked off, not necessarily about hunting, but about shooting. I don't know. When we were younger, it was just a common thing where when you got together for family gatherings, like the guys and boys typically would just kind of section off and go somewhere and shoot, go shoot rifles and guns. It's just a very common thing. And even today, sometimes, somebody gets a gun and they'll bring it out to a picnic or something. Oh, let's go shoot it. We'll walk down there in the woods. Well, when we were kids, Jason, you and I are the same age. I swear there was only like only 3 or 4 different firearms that were in production. Either you had a 12 gauge shotgun,
Yeah. Yeah.
you had a 30-06 rifle,
With a wood
deer
stock.
rifle with
Had
a wood
to be
stock.
a wood stock. Wood stock. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you had some type of revolver, whatever caliber. But I mean, there's basically 3 weapons
much.
that were manufactured in those calibers. And so, I was 5 years old, and I can remember going with my dad and uncles to the shooting range. And I was 5, didn't know nothing about nothing. I just thought guns were cool. I mean, to me, even from a young age, the coolest thing was like having a rifle or being able to shoot. So they'd all get together and shoot. Well, one day I was like, can I shoot? We're with my uncles. I was like, oh man, I want to shoot. And they're like, oh, absolutely. Well, they hand me, the 12 gauge shotgun. I'm, 5 years old. But what's funny is back then, and this has probably happened, this has happened to so many people because people have told me this story of it happened to them. Your uncles and your dad, they know what's about to happen to you. They know that you are going to get knocked smooth out on your butt, and they just know it's going to happen. So either they're doing it for entertainment or to teach you a lesson. So I line up with that 12 gauge shotgun. All of my dad, uncles are there, and I pull that trigger, and that thing knocks me back 10 feet. Shotgun goes flying over my head. I go falling on my back. I probably got a tear in my eye that I'm trying to hide.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they are laughing like it is the first time they've ever seen it and the funniest thing they've ever seen. These days we'd be like, oh, are you okay? I'm so sorry. They laughed like, like it was just the funniest thing, and they knew it was going to happen.
That's
and
the
they were
80s,
just,
though.
Yes, it was the 80s. And that's where really my hunting and outdoor and firearms really started. It's almost like when you're a kid and your dad, your dad's dipping like tobacco or something, like got a big dip in, and they want you to, they can see that you're interested in it, but they don't want you to get to do it, you're a teenager or whatever. So they give you like the biggest plug of tobacco they could possibly fit in your mouth because they know you're going to get sick. It's like they do this with firearms, just to get you ready for, it's like kind of like being a man, they're helping you get into manhood by getting you knocked on your butt with a 12 gun.
You and I would never do this with our kids now because I
know.
don't want to scare them. But they didn't back then. Nobody cared. It just what
Nobody
you did.
cared.
You're right. It's
Nobody
true.
cared, but it was funny. It was like, hey, this is gonna be funny. And if they had cell phone cameras like they do now, I mean, imagine all the videos that we'd have. But that's really where it started. My story is probably similar to yours, Jason, and a lot of people out there. We used to skip school on the first day of dove season. We would miss school to go deer hunting. I mean, I know this happened to you. I mean, I've had shotguns in the backs of my trucks when I pull up at school.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Just coming out from hunting, and it was just something that we did. I mean, it wasn't a question of are you going to hunt or not, or are you going to be a hunter or an outdoorsman. Maybe that's regional. Maybe that's where we live. Maybe that's a Texas thing. I'm not really sure. But I do know that my dad did it. My uncles did it. It was just something that we knew that it was going to be part of us and part of our family. Now, as you get older and time goes on, they get interested in different things, and hunting gets to be more of a chore sometimes for some people, and they get into it or they get out of it. But I just remember those experiences of being a kid and being out in the field and missing school, and my dad being okay with it and like encouraging it. And these days, I kind of miss that, and even with my own kids, I don't know. And now I've got 2 daughters. You've got a daughter and a boy, and both of them are into hunting. I don't know. Could you see some of the things that go on in that, pushing your kids the way that we got pushed into it?
No.
It just, no, it's
no, not at all. Not the way that it was back then. I mean, it is, a lot has changed. And I tell you one thing this is funny. It's changed. It just shows that we're getting old. I had a really good buddy of mine, and you know him, Hans. It's Andrew. We've hunted with him before, and our dads were best friends, and he and I were best friends growing up. And so our dads always carried us hunting. We're always deer hunting together. And so anyway, I just remember that, we'd go deer hunting with our dads and we'd climb up in the stand. We're kids. We're 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, whatever, hunting with our dad. And every time, without fail, whether it's morning, whether it's evening, dad is leaned back asleep. Both of our, we tell these stories, man, he was snoring in there, dad was asleep in the deer stand. And those guys were taking us hunting because they wanted us to hunt. They liked it, whatever, but they didn't care anything themselves about shooting a deer anymore. It was
Yeah.
all about taking the kids, taking us. I mean, and obviously they had grown up hunting. They had killed all these deer. They had all their stories, but we couldn't understand like why they only wanted to take us. And if we weren't going or we had an event, they just weren't going. They just didn't. And so, they would always kind of joke and they say, well, we're just not as mad at them as we used to be, And I remember my buddy and I saying it when we were 7 or 8, saying it when we were, 17, and saying it when we were probably, 24. We're never going to be like our dads. Man, I love hunting. But then by the time we got into our early 20s, we didn't have kids yet. We were bow hunting and we were out there all the time. I mean, big into it. And we're never going to be like our dads. We're going to want to deer hunt forever. And I remember that by the time that I had my daughter, she was first, obviously you're busy and work is busy and you got a kid now and it's harder to hunt. And man, bow hunting takes a bunch of time. So I ended up kind of getting out of bow hunting. I was just rifle hunting. And before I knew it, it's like, I don't really have time and I want to go, and then you kind of get to the point where, my daughter was interested and she wants to go. And I kind of realized like, I'm not as mad at him as I used to be.
Yeah.
And now I haven't, I've killed a couple, does. I haven't killed a buck in a long time. I've killed some does that were just truly for management. And I look at it as kind of no different than going out and shooting a cow, it was just something that needs to be done. But truthfully, going out and hunting now for me is taking one of my kids. And if they're not going to go, I'm not going to go. And so I laugh, and my buddy has kind of gotten to be the exact same way. He's got a couple of his kids are nearly grown now, and but we laugh about it and we say, we turned into our dads. We never thought we'd do that. So it's definitely one of those things when perspective changes as you get older. And I know there's some guys that absolutely, I know you still do a lot of deer hunting on your own, but it is funny. Yeah. I know a lot of guys that by the time they hit about 40, it's like, it's maybe not as serious as they used to be.
So yeah, I do some deer hunting. Honestly, during the year, like this time of year, I'm like, I don't really care about deer hunting. And then a nice buck or something shows up on camera in about October, and I'm like, okay, I got buck fever. But
first cool front comes through.
Yeah. My oldest daughter, who is now 16, when she was 12, I want to shoot a deer, Daddy. I want to shoot a deer. So we went out, and I'll tell you, and I told you this story and probably told it on the show before. We bought her a license. I had a spot picked out for us to go hunt and a deer stand, all that. We get up early in the morning. Within 15 minutes in stand, she shoots a doe. We have it cleaned and in the truck. And that was her hunting season, was 15 minutes. And now she doesn't care about ever doing it again. She's like, I did it once. I like to do it, but I don't care to do it anymore. I just think she don't want to get up early in the stand anymore. But my youngest, who is 12 now, I'm going to let her shoot a deer this year. And she's been asking for a couple of years. She just wasn't quite ready, but she's going to be ready this year, and she's ready to do it. She wants to go hog hunting. She wants to go deer hunting.
That's awesome.
And we'll just see, that's all we can do is expose them to it. And if they have different interests, like my oldest daughter's really big into tennis and she loves it and she plays it all the time. My youngest daughter's also into tennis, but our kids, Jason, because of what we do in our business, are always around the outdoors and the outdoor life, the outdoor lifestyle, I should say, because of what we do, and they're exposed to it. And that's going to make it, I think, better for them when they get married and have kids and be more accepting of it. Maybe not just more accepting of it, but more encouragement of it, than
Sure.
some people these days. So that's important. And, if you're a dad out there or a soon to be dad or grandpa, and you're watching this, so you're probably doing all this stuff right now, and you know how important it is. There was somebody in your life that pushed you in the right direction to at least expose you to it, because we know this. We're losing a generation or two of young people
Sure.
that are not into the outdoor lifestyle, and you can kind of see what that's doing to everything. Our conservativeship. I don't know if I'm saying that, conservatorship
That's a word.
of our land. Yeah,
Yes.
something like, I can change that, make that into a word.
You
But
can
as
make that
far,
work.
but in our the importance of our gun rights and firearm rights, and people having the access to this, people that aren't raised in the outdoor lifestyle and have never hunted or been around people that hunted, then their mind is like, well, why do you need a gun? Why do you need to have a gun with you at all times? It just, and there's so many people too now, Jason, that are, live in urban areas and aren't in
Sure.
rural areas. They're just not raised in areas where you can do that kind of stuff very often. But for those of you also that are living in urban areas or city areas, or you don't have a place to hunt, a couple miles away, man, kudos to y'all, because y'all are the ones that are having to go out and travel and go hunt. Jason and I have it easy. We can walk out our door and go hunt. But y'all, having to drive, or maybe y'all have leases where you can go hunt, but it's a little bit of a drive, and you're making that effort because you love it and it's the right thing to do, and you're trying to encourage that with your kids. That is the Father's Day spirit that's most important. I want to talk a little bit too now about outdoor legacy, Jason. When you and I started working many years ago
Sure.
together.
Yep.
I want you to know, there are Outdoor Legacy is not a large company, but I would say we're not a small company in the night vision and thermal space. I guess we'd have to say we're pretty medium the road or middle sized company. We've got several full time employees, but I have a job today. Jason, you've got a position today. We've got many office managers and people that we work with in the office, and office administrators and all that. And I'll go ahead and name them: Jessica and Angela and Michaela, and we've had Ashley and you and me. We all have a position and a job today because of one man and his love for the outdoors, and that's your dad. And I want to
That's
talk a
true.
little bit about Outdoor Legacy, how it got started, the man behind the company, and obviously you, the person that has kind of gotten that torch and taken that baton and continuing the race with it. So, tell us a little bit about your dad before Outdoor Legacy. What did he do? This is Jason, circa 1985. I mean, what was the Robertson family doing back then?
So my dad was my entire life, his entire adult life was in the outdoor industry professionally. So this is going way back, but when he first got out of college, he began fishing bass tournaments professionally, and he was a fishing guide on Toledo Bend and Sam Rayburn lakes down here in East Texas. And so he, from that, ended up getting into a manufacturer sales rep position. And so over the years, that actually evolved when I was very, very young. Into him owning his own company as a manufacturer's sales rep agency. And so I know people go, well, what does that even mean? Basically, that is a company that is a middleman between dealers, would be like us, and all the way up to, Academy or Bass Pro or Shields or whoever, and very, very large companies. All right. So, like in the thermal industry, the companies that we deal with generally don't have sales reps. They normally go direct because even though they look really, really big companies, they're big to us, they're maybe not as big as, say, a Primos, or a Winchester, or any of these really big brands that are just selling tens and tens of millions of dollars and stuff. So that's what they did, is they would be a sales rep. They would be hired by one of these big outfits, by multiple, not just one, but a whole lot of these outdoor hunting and fishing companies, and say, hey, well, why don't you represent us, and you go to the dealers, and you go in and sell our product to them. So basically writing the orders, being that middleman. And they covered Texas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, and Arkansas, covered those states. So he had salesmen in all of those states, sometimes multiples, especially in Texas. And that's basically what he did. He was, when I was young, he was a traveling salesman. So he was actually going out and what they called calling on businesses, their customers, these dealers. And they would go into these stores, and he just traveled and traveled and traveled. And I don't remember the number. My mom would probably know, but there was, when I was young, he had the number of nights that he was gone from home, and it was an astounding number.
Wow.
And it was something that obviously he didn't like, but it's what he had to do. And long story short, he actually grew a very, very successful business, and it was a really great business. And so that's what my dad did my whole life, all the way up until I was in my mid-20s, when he basically got to the point that he said, you know what? And he wasn't traveling at that point. I mean, he was going to SHOT Show and some of the big shows, NBS, and some of these that are still out there. But he wasn't calling on customer traveling. He didn't do that for years. But he said, you know what? I'm going to retire. I'm going to retire early. And in hindsight, it was actually probably a really good thing. But he retired early, sold his business to one of his employees, one of his salesmen. It's still going today. I talked to those guys. They're great guys. They're still going strong. And so he's got kind of a legacy there, still in that business that's running. But he retired early, and then that's kind of where all this came into play.
Yeah. So that, yeah, like you said, that kind of transferred or trying to morphed into what is now today Outdoor Legacy. So when I first met you, Jason, back in the early days, I guess, of thermal, and the transition between night vision and thermal really coming on the scene, Outdoor Legacy was a mix of a lot of different things. I know that you all were selling a lot of outdoor gear and technical gear, tactical equipment, and you were just really scratching the surface with night vision. And then the first thermal came out from Pulsar, and you and I just kind of linked up then. But it kind of just was a tactical company, right? And then it was a night vision company.
Yeah, so yes, that's true. There's a little bit of a transition. So basically what happened is this, and I'll try to be brief with this. My dad retired, and he'd been very successful. He had done some, real estate. I actually, that's a whole other story. We've owned multiple businesses together, but we were both in real estate, and he had done some development, some buying and selling of real estate. So he was kind of doing some of that as well in his semi-retirement. My dad was an entrepreneur from the very beginning. Always been self-employed. Was never going to sit around. Okay. And so my dad came up with this idea, and he said, you know what? He said, I love the outdoor industry. I've been in it for all of my adult life, 35 years, whatever. And he said, I want to continue that, but I kind of want to do something different. I'd like to be on the other side of the table and be a retailer, be somebody that's actually dealing straight with the consumer. Now, anybody that's probably ever been in retail is going to say, well, that was a dumb idea, to stay in wholesale, don't go to retail, but so he was like, I just think it would be fun to do that. And so that's kind of how it started. He and I started brainstorming, coming up with ideas. This was in about 2011. And in 2012, we basically came up with the concept. So I don't want to get my dates wrong, but I think we went to SHOT Show in 2012, then again in 2013. And we were again, looking for products, looking for items. We're coming up. We had a long road to hoe. And so we didn't have an exact niche of where we wanted to be. So we did. We kind of went with the tactical side and some of the more prepping side, survival side. That was a really big thing, back then in the 2011 to 2014. That was a big thing going on. So kind of got into some of that, and that stuff doubled as kind of some camping stuff. We had shooting accessories, AR accessories on. So that's kind of where we started. And we knew from the very beginning that we needed a niche. I mean, we needed something that we were going to be really strong in, and we didn't know quite what that was. You would like to have that before you start. That's very wise. It's unwise to not know where your niche is going to be, or at least think that you know, because it can always change, and it normally does. But we kind of had some ideas, and so we got this ball rolling. Well, in the middle of all this, of us brainstorming and trying to come up with this, again, while I still had a full-time job at a business I owned, my dad got cancer. All right. He developed a cancer in the bone of his jawbone, kind of a strange thing. My dad never dipped or smoked or anything like that, but he got this weird mouth cancer. And so that kind of put a halt on everything. And I'm fast forwarding here, but he had surgery. They, removed part of this bone. They took bone from his leg, put it in there, skin grafts. It was the whole full mill deal. I mean, a really bad deal. No chemo, just radiation. And anyway, this was a big, long, almost a year-long process. Well, he was getting better. Supposedly was cancer-free. And so we got this ball rolling again. We kind of put some of that obviously on hold. And he was still doing some recovery and things from all this, mouth surgeries that he had. But we were moving along. And come January of 2014, my dad was still having complications, not feeling good. And he said, I can't. Yeah, that's right. Because I know we went in 2013. So in 2014, he's like, I can't go to SHOT. Okay, you're going to have to go. This is very important. And you got to take these reins and you got to go. Well, here's the deal. I've been before because I've been with him, but every time I've gone, I've been with him. Yeah. And he knows everybody. Like, we can't walk around. There's 60,000 people in the room, but we walk. Oh, hey, what's going on? Everybody. He's been in this industry for 30 something years. He's got all these connections, and it's like, you talk about throwing a guy out to the wind. I mean, I'm like, this is out of my element, going to a city the size of Vegas and the SHOT Show by myself and wandering around and trying to source inventory and come up with ideas. Like, oh man. So anyway, long story short, I did it. And I think in retrospect, I'm glad now that I did. I think it was a preparation for what was to come. And so I came back and I said, listen, I had seen something about this, I think in a magazine. And I said, I found something. And okay, and let me back up. I guess I should back this story up a little bit. It says, we started Outdoor Legacy in 2013. Okay, we launched the website. We were selling all these things. I'll talk about tactical gear, shooting accessories. All right. So this was 2014. I go to SHOT Show by myself. And in this business, I mean, granted, it's e-commerce. It's brand new. We're trying to get out there. We're doing all this stuff, obviously struggling. And I go to SHOT Show and I found a product. And it was called the Sightmark Photon. All right. Not the Photon RT, not the Photon XT, the Photon. That's all it was called. And like I said, I'd seen this in a magazine that it was going to be released. And I specifically went and found it. And it was a $500 digital night vision scope. Okay. And most guys that have been in the night vision and thermal industry now very long, if you've been into the sport, you've probably heard of a Photon. This was revolutionary because it was digital night vision and it was extremely affordable. Yeah. And I saw it and I was like, this is awesome. I can sell this. I need this. And so that's how it started. I got signed up right there with Pulsar, and Pulsar didn't even have any thermal at that time. It was night vision. I got signed up with SiteMark and started selling these photons. And so sold a few. I mean, they first came out, and this is pretty good. Well, in the middle of all this, so let me say one more thing that I think is a testament to my dad and kind of who he was. I already told you my dad was he was retired. He was still doing things again, making money here and there. I always said my dad had the Midas touch, and I said I didn't get that.
Yeah.
But so he said this to me, and this is personal, and this is maybe too much information for some people, but I just think it's a testament to who he was. He said, "Hey, I want to start this thing. I want to do it. I want to build it up, and I think we can make a lot of money at it. And you're young." You're getting ready to have kids. You need a good job. I mean, this is a good business, but I don't really need the money. And I know this is the part where you think he says, "Oh, I'm just going to give it to you." He didn't say that. He said, "I'm going to take my half." Now, remember, by the way, this is speculative. We don't have a business. We
Yeah.
don't have a profitable business. This is just his.
Taking my half of zero.
Exactly. Yeah, no, it's negative. We're in the negative. I want to be clear. He goes,
Right.
"I want to take my half and I'm going to give it away." Okay. He said, "I'm going to give it away. I want to give it to, the church, Christian charities, organizations he was involved in." He's like, "That's what I want to do with it." And I'm like, and I'm immediately thinking to myself, like, well, besides like, wow. Then I'm like, gosh, I wish I could say that.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to pay my house note over here.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, So anyway, that's always stuck with me. And I've tried to, be charitable because of that and the way my dad's attitude. But 2014, we're back, got these photons. My dad's getting sick. He's getting worse. He's not recovering anymore. Don't know what's going on. And I think y'all know where this goes. Go to the doctor and they say, guess what? The cancer is back. It was probably never really gone. We probably missed this, and that's probably, why you never got better. And it is spread, and it's in your liver, it's in your lungs, and it's in your back. It's in the bones of your back. My dad had actually had, a bunch of back trouble and all these injections that they thought it was back problems. Well, it was, but it was caused by cancer, and cancer was in the bone.
Yeah.
So, writing's on the wall of what's happening. Now, to make this all, and I promise, guys, I'm going to fast forward here in just a minute, but to make this all more complicated, so now I've got a dad who's terminal. I've got this business that we created that he's the expert in, and I'm not. I mean, just the whole outdoor industry. He's got the contacts in. I don't. Granted, I've been running it. I mean, I've been the one doing this as he's been on the sidelines trying to help as much as he could. But I also have another complication that my wife, Amanda, was pregnant with our second child, our son. And so there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
2014 is a year that as long as I've got a good memory and, I'm of sound mind, I'll remember because there was a lot going on. I've got a business that is in this early stages that's losing money, that there's so much going on. And I've got a father who's dying, and I got a child that's on the way. And so the way it plays out is that in August, middle of August, my son is born. In the middle of September, 1 month later, my dad died. And in October, I took a SiteMark photon and I went out here in my parents' yard by their pond, and I set up a table. This was an absolute whim. Okay, I set up a wood table that I built, and I took a SiteMark photon and I put a video camera up in front of me, and I stood there and I talked about that SiteMark photon. And that is that today you go, well, okay, you did a review. Well, I'm telling you that in 2014, that was a strange thing.
Yeah, for
That
sure.
was a strange thing. Yeah, I mean, it's 11 years ago now almost, and this year will be 11. It's a strange thing to do, and I don't know why I did it, but I was like, I think this would help some people,
Mm-hmm.
and I put that thing on YouTube, and we have Outdoor Legacy.
Yeah, yeah,
That's.
yeah,
I mean, really, we could fast forward through the rest. It did
yeah,
not happen overnight. When Hans came along, this business was still in the red.
yeah.
It was in the red for several years.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad told me on his deathbed, he said, "Listen," he said, "I get it. You got a lot
Mm-hmm.
going on. You do not have to keep this business. Don't keep this business for me. Like, I'm not going to be here. I know where I'm going." His like, my dad, he's extremely strong in his faith. He's like, I know where I'm going. Don't keep this business out of obligation to
Mm-hmm.
me. He was like, you do what you want to do. If you want to close this thing up, close it up. Be done. You're not hurting my feelings. And he was like, and he wasn't saying, you got to make a decision. I was like, well, I would like to do it. I really, I think we've got something here. I'd already had the photon at this point. And he said, well, I do too. And he said, so if you want to do it, I think it's a great idea. You can change your mind. Don't ever come back to this and say, well, I told him I was going to do it. It's like, it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
matter. He was like, but I do think you got something. And he said, I honestly believe it's going to be very successful. I think there's a lot of work ahead, but it's going to be successful. And he was right. It was a lot of work. It took a
Mm-hmm.
long time of operating, living off my wife's income.
Yeah.
And, she was a hairdresser. She still is, but she was working full time and overtime. And, but it worked. And so now,
Mm-hmm.
Hans, I'm gonna kind of put a little wrap and say, you mentioned when you first came on, we still had this other stuff. So we did. I had a whole lot of other inventory, bags and packs and
Mm-hmm.
rifle cases and a bunch of this stuff. Well, I had taken all that off the website by, I don't know, 2015. It was obvious, like, this is in my way.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up having all that stuff pulled out of my warehouse, brought it to my shop, and had giant amount of this stuff in boxes piled up, and I didn't have time to mess with it. And so, long story short, it took a couple of years, and I ended up wholesaling all that stuff off to some other dealers. That was a lot of work, but it was clear that we'd found the niche. And you're right. You came on in a time when really the thermal was just starting to get big, and I say big, I mean more affordable and bigger, and really you were at that tipping point is when you came along, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
It was perfect timing.
It was, and it's weird because I came in after, I guess, a couple years after all the stuff happened with your dad and the transformation of the business. So I didn't really get any of that. All I knew that was that in the first few years that we were kind of doing this, and I was helping just really part time, but you went, people may think out there, oh, you started Outdoor Legacy and it was an oil boom in the thermal market, and you were just carrying bucket loads of cash to the bank, and it was not. It was years of not making any money, and your wife Amanda, bringing in the income and helping. She did a big part in this too of helping
A lot.
this business get to where it is because of what she did and her hard work. But it's just amazing, the influence of a man that I have great respect for, that I have a career because of, that my wife has the ability to stay at home and not have to work, that my kids get to do whatever they want to do, basically within means, because of a man that I've never met, that is a good outdoorsman, a very good Christian man, and that raised a very good and responsible Christian man himself in you.
Part of
And
that
we,
is debatable.
well, we have,
Responsible, good.
yeah, but we have this. When I say we, me, you, everybody involved in Outdoor Legacy, we have this because of a strong father with a grounded base in the outdoor life. And so many of y'all out there that are watching Y'all do this because you may be watching because you like to hunt. Maybe you think the show's funny. Maybe you're looking to buy a thermal. Maybe you just randomly got here off of a whim on a search on YouTube or whatever. This is what this show is about. Not just scope reviews, but our connection to the outdoors and trying to carry on the outdoor way of life in a society that is frowning more upon that day after day. You know what I mean, Jason? It's just we're trying to fight a lot of forces of evil in our life. But I also want to highlight too, as we start to wrap up the show, when you choose to do business with small businesses, think about this story that you heard with Jason and his dad, and his dad passing away with cancer, and the decision that you and him made about continuing the business and losing money and the struggles. When you do business with a small company, there's a lot of stories like this throughout even our market and throughout the United States of small businesses that were started by strong people, that were carried on by strong people, and the struggles and the successes and the failures. And that's why, I hate it when there's a lot of people that kind of guilt people into doing business with small businesses.
Sure.
But just know how much appreciated it is when you do business with any small business, whether it's ours or anybody else in the thermal community or your neighborhood, fruit stand or whatever. There are stories just like this behind every small business. And you know how much appreciated it is when you choose to spend your money with a company like ours, or Outdoor Legacy or any other company, and instead of going to a huge conglomerate corporation that is just funneling, product and people and money like crazy. This is, you're supporting that by supporting Outdoor Legacy and the Late Night Vision Show. You're helping to support the outdoor lifestyle and outdoor way of life. That's not a guilt into buying a scope from us. It's the truth. All of your dollars are affected in positive ways, when you do business with a small business. So I'll quit on my soapbox
I think
there.
I agree with you. And it's, this is a soapbox I don't think either of us were planning on getting on, but I don't like when people try to guilt you into something like that.
The whole small business, small business day or whatever, I get it, but
Yeah.
I love spending money with small business when it's the right thing to do. And I don't go,
Yeah.
I'm not like, if they provide a good service,
Yeah, they need to provide service for it. I'm not just going to go to the guys that jerk to me down there because he's a small. No, not at all. There's no immediate entitlement. How about that? You need to provide a good service and whatever. But again, we go to Walmart or Lowe's or Home Depot or Amazon or whatever. We know exactly what we're going to get. Is no service. We're not getting customer service. We don't go there for that.
Yeah.
So no doubt. Well, listen. I'm gonna bring it back around and say that I do think that Hans is this isn't he's been putting all this attention over here on me and then on my father, but Hans is a amazing father and husband, and he sacrifices a lot for his family and for his kids. And I think that Father's Day, and I know, listen, guys, there's some of y'all listening to this out here that you may not have had that strong father influence, and I get that. Maybe, for whatever reason that wasn't there, but I think we can all see how important it is. And no matter how your father was, we can always, we can try to do better in our generation. And even some of you say, well, man, I don't even have kids. I'm like, well, you know what? Find somebody else's kid, Seriously, you talked about your uncles. My uncles, my dad's first cousin was like an uncle, he was always around, and those guys had a huge influence on me as well. And you can be that uncle or that cousin or that, my kids call you uncle, I mean, you can
Yeah.
be that friend who's around. And so we need to all have that positive influence, and it needs to be on kids, even if it's not your personal own kids. If they're not blood, that's okay, because we need to keep kids. Number one, we need there's since say number one, there's a lot of number ones, but hunting is an important part of it.
Yeah.
Okay. There's things that are more important than that, but that is an important part of it. So guys, I hope you enjoyed it. I mean, this was something kind of on a whim. This wasn't overly planned out, but
every
we
year,
want to talk about some of this.
every year we talk about doing some type of Father's Day show, and we never do. It's always like something happens or whatever. And, it's a little bit different than our normal format of what we normally do. It's not talking about scopes or hunting or something like that. It is, I guess, kind of talking about hunting, but we needed to talk about it. We needed to get that out there because there's a lot of, I hate to say forces of evil out there, but there's a lot of things that are really just corrupting the youth of today. And I think a lot of us just kind of yearn for a simpler way of life, at the end of the day, just a simpler way of life. And that's usually grounded in the outdoors. But hey, real quick, again, I'll say it again. If you want to purchase an optic, you can call us 877-350-1818. If you want to find more episodes of the Late Night Vision Show, you can find them, thelatenightVisionShow.com. You can find all of our past episodes there. Also YouTube. A lot of you watch on YouTube or on Spotify or a podcast sharing app. We definitely appreciate it. And any kudos or thumbs up that you can give us, we'd really appreciate it. You can find me on Instagram and on YouTube and on Facebook at Hans ETX. That's HANSETX, and also Outdoor Legacy on all the socials as well. So we appreciate all of y'all, and we look forward to getting back to some more hunting and thermal talk.
Guys, we do have some more scope reviews coming. We're working on getting more footage out of some of these scopes. We've got a couple scopes that we've got plenty of time behind, but we don't have enough footage. I'm having a hard time finding hogs right now. We've got the issue of all the rains that we've had and the grass that is 3 foot tall on so many fields, whether it's just grazed pasture, whether it's hay fields. People can't get in to cut them. The cows can't keep up if they're just grazed.
Exactly.
The grass is out of control right now, so that's making it double hard. Hans has got hogs, but again, he's got tall grass everywhere. I've got a place of mine that's hayfield. I got hogs on it right now, and I've got a camera. I had to go over there with a weed eater and weed eat around the feeder because the grass was taller than the camera, and the camera was going off 24/7. And I've got hogs, but the problem is I can't. If I get 10 yards away, the grass is too tall. So anyway, we've got more reviews coming. We're just trying to get some more footage for you, and those will be coming up hopefully here in the next, month or month and a half. So guys, stay tuned right here on the Late Night Vision Show. We really appreciate your support, watching the show, tuning in every week. We hope to see you again here next week. Between now and then, y'all stay safe.